Hey guys, it's been a minute since I did just like a rambling type video, but I recently played through the three Stalker games Shadow of Chernobyl, most of Clear Sky, and Call of Pripyat. And you guys had voted for that. I put a community poll on the channel asking, which series I should play through, and Stalker won pretty heavily. So I wanted to go ahead and obviously they're very old games, like 2007, 8, and 9. So I didn't want to put out a review, but I did want to do a video like this where I kind of just chat about my overall thoughts on the Stalker series because overall I think that there is so much like promise there, and it has made me way more excited for Stalker 2 than I initially was. And I've been pretty excited for Stalker 2, but I've been really excited for Stalker 2 the same way I've been excited for like Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, right? They're both games that I've heard great things about, or like from series at least that I've heard great things about, but I haven't personally played. So it's like I'm very excited for Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, even though I haven't really played any Metal Gear stuff just because people love it so much. And the same thing is true with Stalker 2 previously. I've been very excited for Stalker 2 because people have hyped up, Stalker 1, 2, and 3 so much. So I wanted to kind of just give my thoughts here. And I'll be honest, I don't think these games are nearly as good as people hype them up to be. And, that might get me some hate, but, coming at it, over a decade later playing these games, there's a lot of missteps here. And there is something people were telling me about called like Stalker Anomaly or Stalker Gamma. And this is essentially like mod packs that have combined the maps and a lot of the stuff from the three games and done a bunch of overhauls. But to be honest with you, that doesn't even sound remotely appealing to me whatsoever because that's like a survival game. And the whole reason I was interested in Stalker is for the story. I'm a very story driven guy. So the whole reason I even wanted to play through the first three games is to get all of the story, all of the lore in order to go into Stalker 2. Heart of Chernobyl, I think is what it's called. So for me, none of that stuff really seems interesting at all. I know there's a huge community of people that really like that like open world sandbox type of thing, but it's not for me. I'm a very straightforward like story based person. I'm not really interested in like survival games or anything like that. So um I'm just going to be talking about, you know, Shadow of Chernobyl and then Clear Sky and Call of Pripyat. And overall, I really like the world and the atmosphere. I was watching a lot of the trailers for these games back then, and it seems like their catchphrase was always like the most atmospheric shooter of 2007, the most atmospheric shooter of 2008. And I can see why. If you look at the games that came out in the same year, this game is definitely dated. Like back in 2007, you were competing with stuff like COD 4 and Halo 3. So it's like those are some titans of gaming, man. Gaming was literally peak back then. So it's a little bit tough to actually compare to those games, but the atmosphere is definitely there and I really did enjoy the atmosphere. And I also enjoy the story. Shadow of Chernobyl it starts off as a pretty straightforward story. You're just a dude with amnesia. You're in this area called the Zone that they don't really say too much about what the hell that is. You think it's like a post-apocalyptic type of thing, and you just have a goal to go kill this guy named Strelick, and you don't know who that is or whatever. And I really liked like the last 20 minutes of the story. Like the last 20 minutes of the story is spoiler alert for a game that came out in 2007, but obviously you'll want to probably watch a YouTube video on all this anyway before Stalker 2 comes out. But it gets exposed that, the zone is essentially like an opening to an like an alternate dimension almost. And it's created by these scientists, and they have a sort of like Illuminati-esque group called like the C consciousness, and they're kind of running everything from behind the scenes. They're indoctrinating all of these people to carry out their goal, and like the whole reason why you can never get to the center of the zone is because they're, artificially keeping people away from it. And all of that was like huge truth bombs. Like, it was a very well done twist, and I really liked that in Shadow of Chernobyl. I was really into it. And then Clear Sky, um is a prologue. And for me in general, I'm not really a fan of prologues. I think probably the only, like, I have not really liked a lot of prologue games that I've played. And I've played my fair share of them. I think probably one of the only ones that comes to mind as a real banger is Halo Reach. Like, Halo Reach is obviously a banger, but other than that, like, there's really not a lot of prologue games that really get me into it. Even Red Dead Redemption 2, one of my main complaints is just that it is a prologue game. So ultimately, there's never any like twists or turns or surprises because oh yeah, this character is gonna live, this character is gonna live, this character is gonna live. We never saw this character, so they're fucking dead, you know. and and it kind of does diminish a lot of those surprises. So I'm usually not a big prologue fan, but Clear Sky, it starts off where you are there's like all of these crazy emissions happening. For some reason, you are the only person that is surviving these emissions. You're like a super soldier or something as a result, but you are indeed dying. It's like damaging your central nervous system. And it takes place, kind of when Strelok was doing his thing before Shadow of Chernobyl and before he lost his memories. And I found it all right. It was okay. Probably the biggest thing that they improved on was that you could upgrade your weapons in Clear Sky. I think that was like a huge gameplay improvement. And I guess I'll touch on the gameplay real quick here. I, n- I'll wait. Actually, I'm changing my mind. I'll wait until after I talk about the story and all the games. Unfortunately, I did get a bug to where my game would just instantly crash about 7 hours into Clear Sky. So I couldn't finish Clear Sky, but I got pretty far through it. And then, I went through like the Wikipedia and watched some videos on the rest of the story, but I got pretty far through it. The story was like, all right. It was okay. Um, Nothing to write home about. And I definitely preferred Shadow of Chernobyl. And then, Call of Pripyat, the story on that it was kind of trash. I'm going to be honest. Like, the main story was kind of trash in the game. You are essentially like a military officer sent in as an undercover stalker in order to investigate why the hell a bunch of helicopters that they sent into the zone just disappeared when radio silent. And that literally a majority of the game is just trying to find out what happened to these helicopters, get to these helicopters. You have to find different people that'll take you to different areas of the map in order to find those helicopters. But uh, at the end, it was kind of cool. Like, Strelok shows up, that was kind of cool. But definitely the highlight of Call of Pripyat was undoubtedly the side quests. Like, the side quests were actually worth your time in Call of Pripyat, and I really enjoyed that. And they even do have like story implications because at the end of the game, it does like a Fallout New Vegas type of thing where it shows all the different characters and like the outcomes of your decisions and stuff. And they finally seem to figure out that yes, if you're going to have dialogue options, they should probably like give you options. It was one of the things that really bugged me about Shadow of Chernobyl, and it did continue over into Clear Sky, is that it lets you pick your dialogue option, but almost all of the time you're just picking between multiple questions, or you're just picking one option that's going to further the narrative. And at that point it's like, why are you even allowing me to pick the dialogue if my character is just going to say whatever they're going to say? And it seems like they figured that out in Call of Pripyat because there are actually several different outcomes that you can have for quests, and I really liked that. But the main story was definitely kind of trash. Um, and kind of just it ended. And I was like, wow, really? That's it? Like, that's a little bit disappointing. I think probably the weakest point of the games is the gameplay. And that's obviously what mods could help remedy. But the gunplay is terrible. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or anything. And I had stalker fanboys in the comments, saying, "Oh, if you do this and you do that, it's not that bad." It's terrible. It's terrible. And a first person shooter, the most important thing in a first person shooter is the first person shooting. I hate to be that guy, but especially when you're shooting and fighting as much as you are in these stalker games, the first person shooting really, really matters a lot. And it's terrible. And it's pretty bad in Shadow of Chernobyl. And then they somehow made it even worse in Clear Sky. And then they took the things that made it worse in Clear Sky and for some reason carried those over to Call of Pripyat. And I have no idea why the hell they did that. But the major complaint I have with the gunplay is that your bullets just don't go where you want them to. They really don't. There's only like one gun in the entire game where your bullet will always go where you want it to. And that's the Gauss rifle that you get at the very end of the games. Very end. That's the only thing. Even sniper rifles have this annoying deviation. And we're not talking a little bit of deviation with something like an assault rifle. We're talking a lot. We're talking like I'm aiming here, standing still, crouching, even doing like they have a crouch and then they have a further crouch. So I'm doing the furthest crouch. I'm not moving, staying still, and I click once and my bullet is like, it's like insane. And in Shadow of Chernobyl, that is just brutal. It's really, really bad. But in Clear Sky, they added the ability to upgrade your weapons, and so you can improve your accuracy. And I was like, thank God, this is gonna remedy it. Like I'm gonna upgrade my accuracy all the way, and my bullets are actually gonna go where I want them to. Yeah, no. The best you can do, you can put in, tens of thousands, 10 to 20,000 rubles, and you can get every upgrade for handling and every upgrade for accuracy and recoil and stuff. And the best I ever saw, I tried out like every single gun I got and upgraded them and everything. The best I ever saw was like 75% of my bullets going where I wanted them to. And we're talking, once again, sitting still, crouching, doing the extra crouch, aimed in, just clicking once. I mean, it's insane. It's really, really bad. And it feels terrible to play because for some reason in the game, body shots do like nothing with the vast majority of the guns. So it's entirely like a headshot based game. You just want to one tap on people's heads. And when when you can't hit anything 50 meters away, like consistently, it is really, really awful. And, you're talking about me, a very high level top 1% FPS gamer, in every single game. Halo Infinite, PUBG, Halo Infinite, I was Onyx. In Apex, routinely hit Masters. In PUBG, I was top 10 in all of North America, right? We're not talking about somebody that's bad at games here. In Tarkov, I'm a 7 plus KD player, and that's just with PMC kills. So, you're not talking to somebody that's bad at FPSs. It's actually just terrible. I have no idea what the hell they were thinking when they designed that, but luckily from all the gameplay of Stalker 2, it seems like your bullets like actually go where you're aiming. So, that was my biggest annoyance. In Clear Sky, for some reason, they added it so if you have a gun and you're aiming, if you move, it'll like wobble the gun away from where you can't ADS and then back. And then for some reason, Call of Pripyat decided to keep that ass system. So that is just terrible. Like if you're ever trying to use a gun with iron sights, it is miserable, dude. Like you try and walk to the side and it's just like whoa, whoa. And here's the thing. This is, depending on the game, but definitely like in Call of Pripyat, I mean, you are a trained military soldier. You should be able to have some high accuracy, and I'm a nobody. Like in real life, I'm a nobody. And I can routinely hit targets 50 to 75 yards out with a handgun. And we're talking like an MMP shield, like a 3-inch barrel handgun, and I can routinely hit targets 50 to 75 yards out. God forbid I have an AR-15, I can easily hit 200 plus yard targets. It's not difficult, even while moving, especially if you have a zeroed in optic. So, I really just don't understand this. You have this like military officer and he can't hit anything. And then you have some turbo dweeb like me, IRL, and I have significantly better aim in real life. It doesn't make any sense? And I've only fired like a few thousand rounds in my life, and this guy's probably fired 100,000 plus rounds. So yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense to me. I did every single thing that people in comments told me to do about crouching and tap firing and upgrading accuracy, and ultimately, like I said, like the best first shot accuracy I could get was like 75% on target. And then even then, that's relatively on target. I'm talking about like it'll still hit a tree if it's like, you know, 50 meters away. But if you're trying to tap at people's heads 100 meters away, yeah, you're not hitting shit, dude. And the sniper rifles have deviation as well. And it's very rare to get ammo for the sniper rifles as well. So that feels extra bad when you're missing those shots. You're just like, dude, come on. Um, but yeah, I overall I did enjoy my time with the Stalker games. I would give Shadow of Chernobyl a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy that one the most. Then I would say Call of Pripyat. I think Call of Pripyat was like just a little bit worse because of the main quest. The main story quest was worse, but the side quests are very, very good, and it has the weapon upgrading feature, which I do like quite a bit. So I'd say that one for me is like a 6.5 out of 10. And Clear Sky, I just found the story not that interesting. And then plus all of the performance issues and like the crashing and stuff, I can't really give it a rating since I couldn't even get through the game. So I'd have to give it like a 3 out of 10 just because it literally didn't work. Like I couldn't fix it. I couldn't find anything online. I just got to a point in the game where it would just crash to desktop every time. And every time I booted it up, I had to apply all of my settings and stuff. I was like, it's literally just not worth. I'm just gonna read what happens in the story. So, uh, but yeah, I think Shadow of Chernobyl is definitely the best one, even without the weapon upgrading, just because the story I found very, very interesting. The side quests are terrible. Most of them just seem like randomly generated fetch quests, but the actual like main quest is quite good. The exploration is good. One thing that sucks about Shadow of Chernobyl though is there's no fast travel. That is brutal. There is one section in the game where I was at the very end, and then some guy in chat was like, "Oh, did you do this side quest? Because in order to get the true ending, you have to do this side quest." And I was like, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, you need to do that." I look, and it's in the starter area, and I'm in like the second to last area, and all I had to do was run all the way down there, talk to a guy, and then go another area close by. And that entire process took me almost an hour. That's how long it takes to like run through the map all the way back, just talk to a dude, go to another area, talk to a dude, and then run back because you take a lot of damage. It's not like you can run past a lot of enemy soldiers or something. They're going to gun you down and you're going to die. So you're going to have to fight those guys. Yeah, no fast travel is rough. And Clear Sky, there is fast travel, but it's quite expensive. Like just to go to the next zone is oftentimes like 1,200 rubles, which is quite a lot, at least early game. And then in Call of Pripyat, it's perfect. It's not that expensive at all. It's only expensive if you're going to the final area, but by that point you probably have like 100,000 rubles anyway. So like it's like 5,000 total to go to the final area. So yeah, that's much better. But overall, playing through the games, I did enjoy my time with them. I would say just the world and everything is very atmospheric. It's super immersive and it just has so much interesting concept with that whole like sea consciousness Illuminati type thing. What even is the zone? It's like this area that seems to be spreading that's like extra dimensional, which seems really fascinating. Like, what is going on with that? What's going on with the anomalies? The anomalies themselves are all very cool, as well. I can't wait to see those like fully realized in Stalker 2 because everything we've seen from them looks awesome. Um, but yeah, overall, I had a good time. I do think they're glazed a little hard though. I think people really hype those games up even if you compare them to the games that were coming out in the same year, they still like I would I'd be honest, I think if you I was looking at the releases for like 2007, 2008, 2009, I think it's tough to even put any of the 3 games in a top 5 for that year. Just because like those years were pretty freaking stacked. Like there were like really good games that came out in all of those years. So even if you compare it, not to games out now, but to games that were coming out back then, it still kind of pales in comparison to a lot of those releases. And then, a series that's very similar, in my opinion, that came out just a few years later, a few years after the fact, was Metro. And I honestly think Metro is just a better stalker. The gunplay works. Like even back playing the original 2033, the stealth is terrible in the original 2033, but the gunplay is like quite good. The weapon modification is good. The weapons themselves are far more interesting. You have like the Bastard SMG, which is like one of the wackiest little guns ever. Um, you have some like really interesting weapons. It's a very similar story. Uh, of like there's paranormal aspects, there's these weird like anomaly things that are happening. There's more to the story than meets the eye. You're uncovering more of the story than meets the eye. It seems as if it's just like a science fiction type of thing. And then it starts to go more like fantasy, which I really like. So I think ultimately Metro is just superior, but Metro games I also think are superior because they're linear. Exodus has a little bit of like more open world stuff, but Stalker is more open world, which I think a lot of people like. For me, I'm I kind of prefer linear games. So for me, Metro is just like a much better trilogy overall. But obviously that is more recent as well. I mean, Metro Exodus was like just in 2019 or something like that. Maybe a little earlier. I don't know. But anyway, those are my final thoughts on Stalker. Um, if it seems like it's up your alley and you aren't somebody that's going to get really bummed out and annoyed at the fact that your bullets aren't going to go where you're aiming, I think it's definitely worth it, especially if you like immersive shooters. And you can pick, all the games up for like $6 or something, all 3 of them. Like they're criminally cheap. Just be wary about Clear Sky. You might be like me and run into a thing where you literally can't even play the game anymore because it just crashes instantly. So, but anyway, that'll do it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see all of you in the next video or Stream Streameroni. Bye bye.